Today, I had the opportunity to speak a little bit about screen addiction. Most of us, I would say here, we want to live a fulfilling life. We want to be good servants. We want to be fully present for our loved ones and our families. And we want to make memories, and we want to pass those down. We want to cherish them and pass those on to the next generation, and to be fully present in those moments. And the fact of the matter is that we simply cannot accomplish those things if we are constantly distracted. So I would say today our smart devices are the #1 distractor. And hopefully by the end of this presentation, I can leave you with a few ideas to break the cycle of addictive behaviors around screens, to use them as tools rather than as vices and distractions. And I think a good place to start today would be to take a look at the literal Oxford definition of addiction. Addiction, the fact or condition of being addicted to a particular substance, thing, or activity. So it can be a behavior, it doesn't have to be a thing. And the synonyms I found pretty interesting here: dependency, craving, habit, weakness, compulsion, enslavement. A little dramatic, but I think it's pretty accurate nonetheless. So yeah, it's behavioral addiction. Screen addiction is anyway. It's not a physical substance, but the brain's reaction to constant exposure to the bright colors, the chimes, notifications, and buzzes from your phone reacts in much the same way that it would to a hard drug like heroin or cocaine. So let's take a closer look at the key player in addiction, dopamine. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter made in your brain, and most of us have a rudimentary knowledge of dopamine. We know it's the chemical associated with pleasure and reward. It helps to reinforce beneficial behaviors that help us to survive. We were created that way. But as with anything that God made as part of our human functioning, it actually does so much more than that. It plays a role in memory, in movement, in motivation, in mood, attention, and even more. And without dopamine, it turns out that our bodies and brains simply wouldn't work. It's extremely important, and it's that essential to our functioning. And so it's no surprise that when someone develops an addiction to a substance or a behavior, it begins to affect every aspect of their lives. Natural rewards such as food or social bonding or a walk outside on a beautiful day pale in comparison to the flood of dopamine that hits every time you use that addictive substance or behavior. And this causes a reward pathway to flood 10 times more than it usually would for a natural reward. So this creates a tolerance, a dependency on that thing that you've become addicted to. So addictions are easy enough for adults to pick up, but what about children and teens? Frances Jensen, alumni of University of Pennsylvania and author of the book The Teen Brain, explains that it can take until the mid to late 20s for the brain to fully mature. It's quite a while. This helps to explain why teens are moody, explosive, and more susceptible to addiction to everything from drugs, alcohol, and of course, cell phones. So guess what? Some studies have actually supported this. 66.4% of children spent 4 hours or more per day on their smartphones in 2021. And guess what? That number was only 16.3% before the pandemic. It's amazing how much a pivotal moment in history can change our habits. Today's generation is living in an age of addiction. So here are different types of screen addictions. We're familiar with most of them, but if unmonitored usage can open the door to a multitude of harmful addictions, including social media, video games, pornography, online shopping, gambling. And this last one I found particularly interesting, kind of amusing, is compulsive information seeking. Have you ever done that? Have you ever had a burning question in your mind and you think, oh, Google can answer it right away, it has all the answers? It doesn't. But you think of, oh, what was the name of that movie? It's driving me crazy. Or how tall is the Empire State Building? Just random things you want to know. And at the turn of a dime, you can just flip on your phone and get the answer right away. But what do we usually do once we have our answer? We close our browser, and then we might notice that we have 5 missed messages on Instagram, or an unanswered friend request on Facebook, or a few missed text messages, and the cycle continues. So some driving factors we have, and there's about 3 of them. So They can be perpetuated through environmental, psychological, and social behaviors. And for the psychological angle, you can take someone who might be prone to depression, okay? So they want to escape those negative feelings. They may turn to drugs or video games or online shopping to alleviate those feelings. And so that might lead them to turning to an addiction like a screen addiction. Take someone with a social driving factor who might have a crippling fear of missing out and anxiety about missing group texts or losing friends. They might turn to social media. The potential for environmental influence is vast, and with most of our careers using some form of a screen, often for up to 8 or 9 hours a day, and more than that if you're doing overtime. And if that's not enough, then think of taking that habit home where your children see you constantly checking your phone and learn that it's a normal behavior that they should replicate. How did we end up here? So there's one major reason that we ended up here, and that is that the development of modern technology was a solution to the pre-modern problem of scarcity. Things used to be scarce. It used to be hard to have access to certain resources. We had a lack of information, a lack of quick access to goods and services, and a lack of efficient communication. Through the different industrial revolutions, which are illustrated here briefly, what happens when the problem of scarcity is overcome, turned on its head, and shifts to abundance? Overabundance, combined with an increasingly fluid set of moral standards of today, creates a pervasive sense of confusion. As a reminder, here's what the Bible has to say about confusion. For God is not the author of confusion, but of peace, as in all churches of the saints. So, God is not the author of confusion, but someone else is. And an overabundance of information is the perfect opportunity to throw us into an unfulfilled, misguided, and unfocused state of mind, setting us up for failure. So I'm going to talk now a little bit about variable reinforcement, and this has to do with a little bit of gambling, and we're all familiar with gambling. How are gambling and social media similar? Big tech has learned a lot from the gambling industry, and studies have shown that the maybe factor of maybe getting a new email, maybe getting a new friend request, in other words, the thrill of the chase, it's a very attractive thing that we're naturally attracted to. Have you ever noticed what happens when you've spent a long time away from one of your apps and you come back and you might find that you have a free coffee voucher, maybe a 50% off coupon, maybe a random spontaneous gift that really isn't spontaneous at all because it was all calculated? Much in the same way that you might get a free drink after several unlucky spins at a casino, the intention is always to keep you coming back. And with all its buzzes and beeps and badges and sounds, psychiatrist David Greenfield has called the internet the world's largest slot machine. It's a sobering comparison, but it's about the most accurate one that I've seen to date. It's even more surprising when you consider that even looking at discouraging news stories on our phones can become an addictive habit in itself. Enter doomscrolling. Now, this is a very, very strange habit, but it's easily explainable if you really think about it. Doomscrolling is the practice of obsessively checking online news for updates, especially on social media feeds, with the expectation that the news will be bad, such as that the feeling of dread from this negative expectation fuels a compulsion to continue looking for updates in a self-perpetuating cycle. So it's almost like being on alert. You're like a watchdog. You're just watching your feed, waiting for the next terrible story to come up because you need to know these things, and it's sort of a defensive thing, I think, but it's addictive. It's highly addictive. What's really surprising about it, too, is that it can create lots of physical adverse effects as well as psychological. Headaches, heightened anxiety, muscle tension, neck and shoulder pain, low appetite, difficulty sleeping, and even elevated blood pressure. They studied this at Harvard. It's real. So no beneficial psychological effects to this habit have been found. It's not worth it. but it is very extremely addictive. So what can we do instead of doom scrolling? Doom scrolling is something that we do because we're looking for a habit to replace another one of our needs. So what are some other needs that we have that we can use instead? So some alternatives to doom scrolling include not using social media apps as your primary source of news. I can explain why this is a bad idea. If you go there for news, you'll get swept in absolutely everything but just the news, and probably not good news. So signing up for an email list to catch highlights only is also a great alternative to doom scrolling. I personally am signed up to one called Morning Brew, which is focused on world headlines affecting business and stock market, and that is the only one I subscribe to. Keeping up with local news stories is another great way to avoid doom scrolling. This way you can see positive stories too. The last way is by limiting news consumption to around 20 to 30 minutes per day, kind of like how we used to do with actual physical newspapers. Just taking that 30 minutes in the morning with your coffee, not the entire day, which you can easily do when doom scrolling. So another damaging habit to ourselves and to others is called phubbing, and this is a relatively new term, again, that we dubbed. Phubbing is a combination of the words phone and snubbing. It is the practice of ignoring one's companion or friends in order to pay attention to one's phone or other mobile device. And it's damaging, needless to say, because the act prioritizes time spent on a phone above quality time spent with your loved ones. So it's another very damaging habit. So there are many, many steps to reducing screen time. I'm going to just summarize them right here. I'm going to get a little bit deeper into each one of them as we move forward. And there's plenty of ways. There's plenty of ways. One of them is keeping your phone away from your bed while charging. Another is setting aside time for outdoor activities, setting timers, not bringing your phone to the meal table, not enabling push notifications, and silencing notifications. So let's get into the first one right now. And here it is. Keep your phone away from your bed. Now, most of us, I would say, have our phone chargers near our beds when we go to sleep or when we wake up. Now, your phone does not need to charge near your bed. You might think that because your bed is near an outlet, you need to charge your phone there, and that's simply not the case. I think it seems to be a trained behavior that we've adopted and accepted without really challenging it. And it would seem that based on the outcomes, we should really reconsider whether this is truly practical and helpful for us in the beginning and the ending of our day and setting our priorities. Wall outlets near your bed can be reserved for things like a bedside lamp or an alarm clock. If there's no other outlet in your room, you can always place your phone on the floor instead. It's inconvenient, but that's kind of the idea, right? We want to make this habit inconvenient for us. We want to make it a little bit harder to repeat that behavior, and that's the idea. A 2021 cross-sectional study of young adults in the UK found a strong link between poor sleep quality and smartphone addiction, and that really is no surprise. When you regularly scroll through apps in bed, you may also begin to associate bedtime with being awake and using your phone. It creates a sense of restlessness, and that promotes stress and anxiety. It'll probably make you more likely to overuse the phone. So this one is extremely important, I think. It's don't bring your phone to the meal table. Bringing smart devices to family meal times promotes behaviors that are destructive to the family system, and the family system is extremely important. We all know that. So while using their cell phones, parents talk to their kids less, respond more slowly, and they overreact to being interrupted. The parents who are distracted by their phones might also miss out on opportunities to help their children learn and socialize during that very, very pivotal point of their life between ages 4 through 6, or even below age 10 in their teen years. It's very essential that they get that bonding time with their family, that they get that opportunity to learn what a family should look like, how they should support one another, how they should communicate. Now, the Uniformed Services University of Health Sciences explained that, for example, while at playgrounds, an estimated 60 to 80% of parents use their cell phones, which can affect their ability to respond to their children's needs. So put yourself in the shoes of that child for a moment. How would it feel to be a child regularly ignored by their parents who are constantly distracted by their devices? Those parents may be unintentionally training their children not to rely on them for their needs. Where else are their children going to look? So it's another one, and it's one of my favorite things to do is to get outside. Getting outside, even taking a walk. It doesn't have to be a strenuous hike. It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Even just taking an indoor activity that you would usually do outside. So gardening, or maybe journaling, or just taking a simple walk. Getting out in your garden, it really helps with breaking that cycle of reaching for your phone. It's great for stress reduction. It improves your mood and emotional well-being. I love to go on hikes. I do love to go on hikes. Back where I'm from in Pasadena, I had several spots to choose from. And I'd go out there for a couple hours at a time, and I wouldn't always have cell service. But I'll use it sometimes as prayer time, and it's a great environment to do that. It's free of distractions. Every time I would finish with a long walk or a hike, I would feel all the overstimulation from the environment that I had while I was indoors, using my computer for work and such. I felt all that overstimulation leave my body. And I felt calmer and sharper, and I felt more gratitude, interestingly enough. And there's something about getting outdoors and soaking in the elements that gets you into a better mental place where your phone is suddenly less appealing. So I highly recommend getting outside if you can, when you can, however you can. So this is a very simple one. It's really not that complex, but it is easy to miss. So when an app asks you to enable notifications such as alerts, sounds, and icon badges, you can easily say don't allow. So when downloading a new app, it might give you a pop-up like that. It'll ask you to accept notifications, badges, sounds. You can also change this for each of your apps that are already on your phone by going into your phone settings and disabling push notifications from there. The idea is that it reduces distractions. So here's another one, and I think this is criminally underrated, and it's very classic. It is an old as time method, taking advantage of your timers. And every phone has a timer on it. You can ask your smart assistant, set a timer for 30 minutes. And it helps to set a limit for online tasks and checking apps if you have a specific time in your day dedicated to that specific task. Or you could use it for a personal hobby without the distraction of your phone or your tablet. Now, my personal favorite way to do this is by using the Pomodoro timer. The Pomodoro technique has a 25-minute interval known as a Pomodoro, and then you take a 5-minute break in between. And that turns out to be a very effective way to break up a work schedule. I use it all the time. I use it sometimes for a Bible study if I'm making my way through reading a book. Sometimes I'll use it for presentations like this. It's just very helpful. And there's many versions available of that on YouTube. There's also a Pomodoro timer app. So I would recommend that if you're interested in checking that out. So the do not disturb feature, I feel, is something that some of us know about, but some of us don't really know about. And if we do know about it, we don't really realize that we can use it anytime we want to use it. And it's great because it gives us the opportunity to have quality time with family uninterrupted, go to an important work or schedule, a school project and dedicate time to that, use it for Bible study and prayer time, use it while sleeping, not have to worry about notifications and buzzes and alerts waking us up while we're trying to sleep, or during important events such as meetings, weddings, funerals, and church services. So here is just a brief illustration, and not all of us have an iPhone, but here, if you do have an iPhone, you can actually follow along right now, and you can grab your phone and drag your finger across the top right corner. If it's unlocked, drag it down, and you can see that there's a menu here that pops up. And you can tap focus, it'll lead you to do not disturb. There's 3 dots on the right-hand side, and I'll just go through the steps here. Unlock your iPhone and swipe down from the top right corner of the screen to pull down the control center. In the control center, look for the focus tile, tap on it to reveal all the focus modes you can choose from. And then from the list of options, tap on do not disturb to enable it. It's highly customizable, by the way. It's not just a general do not disturb. You can go in there and you can set it for a particular time of day. You can also enable it for certain individuals that you hope could contact you, even if your phone is on do not disturb, if there's an emergency, if you want certain members of your family to be able to reach you regardless of whether your phone is on do not disturb. There's an option for that. And on most phones, this is the case. Now, I don't have an Android. I don't know if this is 100% accurate, but there is also a way on an Android phone. So this is a brief illustration of that. You open the Settings app, you scroll down and tap Sounds, you tap Do Not Disturb, tap the Turn On Now button at the very top of your screen, and there it is. I've circled it for you. So if you want to do this on your own time, or even if you want to maybe figure it out after this presentation, after this seminar, I'd be happy to help you out. I have messed around with this quite a bit on my own phone, so I have a pretty good idea of where to look for these things. But that is also a great way to reduce your screen time. And so just to sum it up from looking at all of those things, compassion is extremely essential when talking with people that you may suspect are screen addicted, especially if you're close to them, especially if you may suspect that they do have a screen addiction. It's important to understand that they themselves do not want to be addicted. Most likely they don't want to be addicted. And you need to approach the topic gently and with patience, because I would say that probably most of us are addicted, and there are differing levels. Some of it is a very serious problem, and for others it's just more of a bad habit that we need to kick and that we need to stay grounded more often. So I wanted to include this quote from James Williams, a philosopher. He wanted to do a thought experiment, and it very, very closely, I mean, it really hits home, because he says, how would you design a society as weak-willed as possible? It would deliver an endless supply of informational rewards on demand, whether that's outrage headlines or cute cat photos. And what's worrying is that those informational rewards become more and more personalized to suit our particular weaknesses. And doesn't that sound exactly like our screens? So what do we do to arm ourselves against the onslaught of personalized attacks coming from the very devices designed to help us? How will we use our time knowing that what we do about these devices and their ability to waste our time if they go unchecked? Our time is valuable, just simply put. Exodus 20 verse 3, or the first commandment, says, "Thou shalt have no other gods before me." And this is a very uncomfortable thought, but it's a sobering thought. Are we worshiping at the altar of our screens? Do we subconsciously see this as a solution to our problems? Are we snubbing our relationship with God in favor of our devices? So just as a quick aside, what can we learn from King David? How do we think that he would have handled having a smartphone? I don't know King David personally, obviously, but I know his legacy. Most of us do. He was described as a man after God's own heart. Psalm 119, verse 147 through 148, "I rise before the dawning of morning and cry for help. My hope is in your word. My eyes are awake through the night watches that I may meditate on your word." So what can we learn from King David's example in managing the time that he had for a greater purpose? To conclude, I want to leave us with this. As the world becomes more and more technologically advanced, we must become more and more intentional with our time. Thank you.